My name's Jeff Figel, Damage Control Senior Chief. I didn't know what the Nimitz was. Of course, it's a nuclear aircraft carrier, but I had to look that up and find out what it was. And I was a little bit concerned because at the time it was at Norfolk, but there was rumors that it was supposed to be going to the West Coast. And years later, it actually did go to the West Coast, but it was long after I had to be concerned with it. And so that was my main concern. Then after that, I just wanted to know who Nimitz was, and you kind of learn a lot of things about why that ship was called Nimitz. Because if I'm going on, what's this Nimitz? And so I actually came back to Philly after a stay at home, and there's a building out there that I stayed in for a week, and then they flew us over to Rota, Spain. And then from Rota, Spain, we waited there for a week, and then we went to Venice, Italy. And that's where I met the ship. Massive. I never seen an air. The first time I seen an aircraft carrier was I was in A school, and right here in Philadelphia, the Intrepid, which is now a Memorial in New York, it was here in Philly, and that was basically a small carrier. But it gave me an idea that, boy, if this is a small carrier, what's a nuclear aircraft carrier gonna be like? And it was interesting as you go up, it's moving around in the water, because it anchors with this one anchor, and it tends to spin out in the water. And so you get, as you're coming out, like in Venice, it was an hour's ride, and you could see it in the distance, and you could see it, moving, and just utterly impressive. 30-ton anchors, and I think the links of the chain were like about over 300, 400 pounds. And another one of our jobs in our division was to be the forecastle burner. So whenever they lowered the anchor, we had to be there, although we didn't have much to do because they would free fall the brake with a sledge, and one of the anchors would go down. But bringing it up, we had an oxyacetylene cutting outfit right there. In case it brought something up with it, you can cut that stuff off. So, and when that anchor went down, a lot of rust came out of the anchor locker, but it was just absolutely massive. You can never, be not impressed when you see an aircraft carrier, because you're looking up at it like you're an ant, and over 1,000 feet long. So, and they were on a med cruise, so I think we did maybe 4 or 5 months on the med cruise. So it was great. The only bad thing about being on the Nimitz, it never went to port. If you're on a smaller ship, you go to port. You anchor right at pier side or whatever. But on the Nimitz, you were sometimes you were miles out. Like I said, I got on board in Venice, Italy, and I took it must have been almost like an hour's boat ride on what they call Liberty boats, 40-foot diesel boats, and to get out there. And that's how people would go to and from the ship, and they would squeeze you in. And that's one of our side jobs in our division. We were the boat sailors for the 40-foot Liberty boats, and that was probably one of the most exciting parts of being on the Nimitz is to run them boats, because they would squeeze people in where there was no room for you. So you're on the gunwale, which is the edge of the boat. You're hanging onto a cleat, and going through these sometimes really rough waters, like in Naples, Italy. You would go down into a swell, and you just see nothing but water around you, and you would then eventually make your the boat coxswains were amazing in driving these boats in rough seas, and you would back into the fantail, and then people would have to wait to get off because the water would go down past the back fantail ladder, and then as it came up, you'd say, okay, 3 or 4 people jump off and then get onto the ladder to go up to the back of the fantail from the back. And meanwhile, you're tied off to, you know, a nylon rope. You're tying off to the cleat on a nylon rope. Watching the end, you couldn't tie, you know, give too tight of a tie on these cleats, because the boat is heavy and it could just rip off the cleat. So you had to like learn how to give a little bit, and take a little bit on the slack of the nylon rope. And you know, there were some issues that you had to be careful of, you know, running these boats. And in Naples, if you fell into water, you had to get shot at that time. But I guess it's a little bit better nowadays.